Today on Sugar Spun Run, we'll be making strawberry cheesecake cookies. Hey Sugar Spun bakers, Sam here, and today I am so excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. Today I am sharing another gourmet style super decadent cookie. This one is stuffed with strawberry cheesecake. I think you're going to love it, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's start with that cheesecake filling. You're going to need 4 ounces of softened cream cheese. You'll notice this is brick style cream cheese, not the spreadable kind sold in tubs. Now, it should be nice and soft, and I like mine to be soft enough that I can just squish it with my spatula. The important thing is that it's not cold, otherwise you could end up with cream cheese lumps in your filling, which is less than ideal. All right, so now that I've ensured this is nice and smooth, we are going to add 2.5 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Let's stir that in as well. Now, when I was developing this filling, I was intentional that I didn't want to include an egg in the cheesecake filling because it's a little bit hard to ensure that the filling is baked all the way through, and I didn't want anyone eating raw eggs. So there's no egg in this cheesecake filling. It still tastes amazing, and you don't have to worry about over baking the outside of your cookie in order to get the inside baked to a safe temperature. Next, we're going to add a tablespoon of sour cream. This ingredient is what's really going to make the filling taste like cheesecake. It takes it a step up from just being like a regular cream cheese filling. We're also going to add vanilla extract, and I'm just using an 1/8 teaspoon, which is a teeny tiny bit, but I found that more than that makes it a little bit too sweet. Let's stir everything together until nicely combined. You could use an electric mixer for this, but since my cream cheese is nice and soft, I find it's just not really necessary. Okay, so this is going to be our filling. So what we'll do is we're going to scoop this by 2 teaspoon-sized portions onto a wax paper lined baking sheet, or you could use a large plate instead. Now I'm just going to drop this, and this will be our cheesecake filling. I will make sure to link to this cookie scoop that I'm using, but you don't have to have a cookie scoop. You could just use a set of or a pair of spoons and portion the filling that way. And when all is said and done, you should get about 15 dollops. I'm just gonna scrape the bowl to get my last one. This one will be a little bit extra generous, and that will be my cookie. All right, now we're going to pop this in the freezer because we need the cream cheese filling to harden before we're going to be able to put it in our cookie dough. Okay, while that's chilling, we're going to go ahead and start making our cookie dough. Now this is a graham cracker based cookie dough because I wanted to replicate that whole cheesecake feel. However, we're going to start with our butter, and you're going to need 1 cup or 2 sticks of softened unsalted butter. Drop this in our mixing bowl. I'm using a large mixing bowl. We'll also add 1 cup of firmly packed light brown sugar and a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. Now you could make today's recipe in the stand mixer if you'd like, but today I'm just going to be using my electric hand mixer. And we're going to cream the butter and sugar together until it's light and fluffy. All right, once everything's nicely combined, you are going to need 2 large eggs, and you should always crack your eggs in a separate dish just in case they're bad or in case you get any shell in there. Crack our first egg. Add these in with our cookie dough. We're also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract and use your electric mixer to stir everything together again until completely combined. Next, grab yourself a separate mixing bowl, and to this you're going to add 3 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour. I know that sounds like a lot of flour. We're making a lot of cookie dough because these are big, thick cookies. They're gourmet cookies, remember? Now again, I wanted these to have a graham cracker flavor, so we'll be adding 1 cup of graham cracker crumbs. Once again, I'm regretting my bowl choice because this is looking a little bit too small. We'll also add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, which is just going to help the cookies spread just enough. I don't want them to stay in just round balls. They need a little bit of spread, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. This is just table salt. And wow, did I choose a bowl that's too small? You'll want to get everything nicely combined. I'm not going to be able to whisk as vigorously as I'd like. That's okay. We'll get through this. A spoon. I need a spoon. I have like 200 mixing bowls, and I always grab the wrong size. Try to keep it all in the bowl. All right, once everything is thoroughly combined, and I'm just going to check that it's actually thoroughly combined. Okay, everything looks well distributed. We're going to bring back our butter mixture, and we're going to gradually add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. And I do mean do this gradually. If you were to just add all of the flour at once, the dough would be way too stiff. It would not be possible for the butter to properly incorporate the flour, and you would just have a dry, crumbly dough that is very difficult to work with. Now this is going to be a stiff dough, that's by design, but it shouldn't be so dry that it's cracking and unusable. We need something very firm, that way it holds in that cheesecake filling and it doesn't spill and leak all over your oven. Okay, you want this to be nicely combined so that there are no bits of flour remaining, and so that if you pick up the dough and press it together, it sticks together nicely. I'm also going to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl because I want to make sure there are no clumps of flour remaining, and I can see it actually is a little bit too dry on the bottom still, so I'm going to stir it just another second. Let me get everything turned up. Stir it once more, mix it once more. All right, once everything actually is well incorporated and nicely combined, we are going to cover this cookie dough and we are going to drop it in the refrigerator to chill for 30 minutes before we go any further. Now, when the dough is almost finished chilling, one thing I like to do is make sure I have my strawberry filling that makes our strawberry cheesecake ready. You'll need about a half cup. You can use store-bought strawberry jam or you can use a homemade strawberry sauce. I will make sure to link to my recipe. It's pretty simple to make and it just has a fresher flavor, so I prefer it. I have this measured out, and the cookies can look a little bit plain and boring on top when they're finished baking, and that was really frustrating to me because they're so amazing inside and I wanted them to look a little bit more snazzy. So one thing I like to do is take 3 ounces of white chocolate and just finely chop this. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to press this into the tops of the cookies before I bake them. The white chocolate will slightly caramelize and it's just going to add that extra something on top. So you could, of course, skip this, but I like to do it. Adds a nice little bit of extra flavor. Oh, and if you wanted, you could just use white chocolate chips instead. Obviously, you wouldn't have to chop them. You would just press them on top of the cookie dough. And I like this nice and fine. White chocolate shards. Nothing too fancy. I have my little mini cookie scoop here that I'm going to be using for the jam. All right, our cookie dough is done chilling. And these cheesecake dollops have chilled enough that they're pretty much frozen. They're pretty solid, actually. I don't like to leave these out the whole time just because they can get a little bit soft and difficult to manage. But for the first couple cookies that I make and show you on camera, I'm just going to leave them out so I have them here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to scoop out 2 tablespoons of cookie dough. It's way more than 2 tablespoons. There we go. It's more like it. I'm going to roll this into a ball. Then I'm going to make a nice divot in the center using my thumb, and I'm going to measure out 1.5 teaspoons of strawberry sauce. Drop that right there in the bottom. Take one of our cheesecake dollops, press that on top. It's okay if it smushes around a little bit. Set that down, scoop another 2 tablespoons of dough. Then I'll just roll this, and I kind of flatten it a little bit, and we'll just place it right over our first layer. Now smush these sides together. I'm talking through this process and I feel like I'm making it sound more complicated than it is. It's not rocket science. You just want to seal in that filling. A little bit showing here, so I'm going to just pinch that off and replace it with more dough. You don't want anything showing because if it does, it's a lot more likely that it's going to leak out while the cookies are baking. All right, now I'm going to roll this into a nice smooth ball. So once you've rolled your cookie dough ball, we are going to decorate it with that white chocolate. Easy to do. I have my pile of white chocolate here. Shake it up a little bit because I want to get some of the finer pieces that have settled to the bottom. And then I'm just going to press it into the surface. And this is just going to add a nice little pop of color and flavor to the cookies. Now this dough is going to need to chill in the freezer for about 10 or 15 minutes before we can actually bake it. Again, this is going to help minimize any spreading. So what I'll do is I'll place it on the baking sheet, and this will go in the freezer. And once they're chilling, I'll get the oven preheating to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the oven is preheated, then we can start baking our cookies. Now this recipe makes about 15 really large cookies. I'm just going to show you filling one more because let's face it, after one, you really get the idea. I do feel like I'm being a little bit extra generous with these portions, so my cookies might be a little bit bigger than they technically should be. So if you want to make sure you get 15, make sure you measure properly. Gave myself a little bit extra dough here. It was a little more than 2 tablespoons, so I'm just going to pinch that excess off. I just wanted to make sure I could get everything nicely sealed. And if you ever notice like a gap where you missed a spot, just patch it with a little bit of dough. Very forgiving. And like I said, I'm talking through the recipe a lot. I hope I'm not making it sound complicated because it's really not. Decorate it. Make sure your cookies are spaced at least 2 inches apart on the baking sheet. Now I use 2 tablespoons and 2 tablespoons of dough, but if you have a 1/4 cup measuring cup, you can just scoop a 1/4 cup instead. This is a little bigger than a 1/4 cup, so mine's going to be a little scant. Roll it up. Make a large indent. We have a guest appearance today. And drop your cheesecake in and then just fold the dough around it. You may need a little bit more to get a good seal. So either method will work, just do whichever one works better for you. All right, and once again, these do need to chill, so I'm going to pop them in the freezer while my oven is preheating. All right, so once these have chilled and our oven's preheated, we'll take these over and bake them in the center rack of our 375 degree Fahrenheit preheated oven, where they'll need to bake for about 15 minutes. All right, now these cookies are going to be quite fragile while they're still warm, so you can either let them cool completely on the baking sheet or let them cool at least 5-10 minutes on the baking sheet and then move to a cooling rack to cool completely. Now you do want to let these cool completely before you dig in because that cream cheese or cheesecake filling is going to be molten hot. Of course, I'm going to break into one of these babies and show you how it looks inside. That's the best part. Where's my knife? Got it. Okay, I'm trying to pick which one. This one looks good. No, this one. This one's still a little bit warm. Oh yeah. I am just so excited about this one. Super Gourmet Deluxe Cookies. I cannot wait for you to try this one. And if you do, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you like this cookie recipe, boy, do I have some others I think you'll like as well. I'll make sure to link to those as well. Check out my Nutella stuffed cookies. They're amazing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is the best part. Ah! This is it. This is the best cookie. Ah, this is amazing. 2 teaspoons of baking soda. No. If you were to, and you can see I went a little bit too light on the cookie dough, so I have some on the seams.
Mommy, I'm on the way back.
Great, I'm glad. And then I'm just going to.
Mommy, is that a chocolate potato?
What?
Is that a chocolate potato?
No, it's not.
What is it?
It's a cookie.
White chocolate cookie?
Uh-huh.
Look, you should turn around and say hi.
You're on camera.